Right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mood Mentor Emotional Awareness Show. I'm going to change it from here. I'm sorry, I haven't pre-warned Julie about this tonight. I've had some conversations recently about being authentic. And for me, something that's really authentic about the way I approach what people term as mental health, for me, is actually emotional awareness or emotional well-being. And I think that also fits really well with the conversation we're going to have tonight with Julie. So thank you, Julie, for coming and joining me.
Hi,
And
Kay. Lovely to be here.
thank you. And I think this is, excuse me, eating tea too close to coming on. I should have eaten tea a bit earlier. So it's really lovely. And I think tonight has just fallen absolutely beautifully with your topic of intentional happiness, as you say, leading up to Blue Monday,
Mhm, mhm.
which I had a quick look up about being a very, very depressing day in the year. But I'll let you introduce yourself. So thank you for joining us. I'll let you introduce
Oh,
yourself. I'll just say hi to Yvette. She's in the room. And anybody else who's in, pop your name down, say hi, let us know you're here. And Julie, please introduce yourself and your book.
yeah. Hi, everybody. So lovely to be here. Thanks, Kay, for having me. My name is Julie Leonard. I'm a life coach and happiness evangelist, and I've been working in the field. Yep, there you go. I can tell you more about that in a while. But yeah, my background is in psychology, and then I've worked in mental health for well over 20 years based in Scotland. And before transitioning into coaching, which was a really natural continuation for me. And so, all in all, I've been working for over 30 years with women and really in the pursuit of happiness. And happiness is so important to me. It's a word that's used a lot, but um, I guess for me, when I was working in Scotland, I used to go into people's homes and work with them. I had a great privilege of doing that, and um, I would always ask people, like, what are they looking for? What does recovery mean to you? What do you want to change? And they would always say to me, "I want to be happy," and that really got me curious about what does that mean? What does happiness look like? And it's such an individual thing. And I would help them break that down and work towards it. I was really coaching. It wasn't called that then.
No.
And it really sort of started my passion for what happiness is and how important that is, that if that's what everyone's looking for, then it's got to be something we've got to be pursuing. And I wasn't always this confident a person myself. I grew up very, very shy, very introverted, very anxious, and I've done a lot of work on myself to become the woman that I am today that will show up live and chat here. So it felt really natural that I studied psychology and went down that path. So, I've got my own journey of transformation. And so, when we talk about, mental health and happiness, I can speak from my own personal perspective, but also working with, well over 1,000 women over the years and what it's
Wow.
like. And so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm based over here in Munich, Germany. And last year I realized a dream, probably a bit like yourself, Kay, where I launched my first book, which is Intentional Happiness, the life-changing guide
Yeah.
to being happy and staying happy. So I'm really excited to chat about, yeah, like January, Blue Monday, and all the things that we can do in order to be more proactive and more intentional in our lives.
Well, while we're talking, I'm now going to pop a link in the chat to your book. And I
Thank you.
absolutely love the fact we're talking about happiness. And anybody who knows me and knows my color system knows that my yellow is all about happiness. And your book is just yellow.
It's just bright yellow.
It's like
Ta-da.
yellow. It's
It's the
perfect.
color of happiness, isn't it? Yeah, and I feel I should wear yellow, and I don't. I wear blue a lot, but yeah, it just felt the right color for the book. I wanted something very simple, very bright, and just very positive. And it is.
Absolutely.
It's a positive color. You can't really look at yellow and I mean yellow sunshine and sunflowers, so you really can't.
Yeah,
You can't
definitely a
really
pink
think of
color.
something negative with that, really. Yeah, you've got your yellow one, which is beautiful.
Yeah. I'd never really worn yellow until this last year, and it just seemed I went through a lot of depression myself last year for circumstances, and it was like I need to get out of this. I need to be happy, and like you said, you have to be quite purposeful about it. Happiness isn't what comes when you've sorted the stress out and the anger and all the other feelings. You've got to be happy almost to overcome them, haven't you? And you force it through almost some days. Um,
Yeah, and I think
feels
it's
that way, like you've actually got to be really intentional about it, as you say.
yeah, I think that's the key. That's when I talk about happiness, it felt really important to talk about being intentional about it. That um, I think like so many things that I've achieved in my life, people have often come back to me and said, "Oh, you're so lucky," you know. So I remember like the first year I live here in Munich, Germany, so I moved from Scotland to here, and I
Mm.
had quite specific goals. I'm a coach, so I was quite clear on what I wanted to do when I moved here. But I could have moved to Germany and been like, "Well, I hope I meet some friends. I hope I can get a
Yeah.
job," But I wanted to learn German. I wanted to set myself up as a coach. I wanted to get pregnant. That was a big thing for me because I was in my 40s by this point.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I wanted to set up my own business. So I had very clear goals. And when I went home at the end of the year, I was 5 months pregnant. I had completed my diploma. I'd launched my own business. My German was underway. It's still a bit iffy. It's a hard
It's
language.
a lovely language though.
And I had created like a network, and people said to me, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I was like, "No, it wasn't luck. It was really hard work and it was being
Yeah.
intentional." And this is what I keep wanting to reinforce, not to take away the challenges that people have, the things that people have uh, gone through, the life challenges that are thrown at us, and particularly now, with the pandemic and everything that's going on in the world. Not
Yeah.
taking away from that and not being false about that, giving
Yeah.
it its place and acknowledging that there's times when it's absolutely okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
However, the research shows us that at least 50% of our happiness is within our control. And I do think there's even more, because there's a whole area
Yeah.
of epigenetics where there's all this evidence that we can actually change our genetics, which is like fascinating. But if
Yeah.
you think about how much is actually within your control, that's what I want to harness at a time when a lot feels out of our control. I want people to focus on what is within our control, and that if we get more intentional about the life that we want, that you can make it happen. Nothing I achieved was like, I guess, maybe getting pregnant might be a little bit, out of my control in some degree, but I took a lot of steps to make it happen, so, there's so much that we can do, and it's very important to be very clear and prioritize the things that are important to us. And I think so often people are reactive in life. We kind of, and I know that because we all do that. We all get busy. We all get on that treadmill. We all just go through life, and the weeks go by, the months go by, and then you're like, oh gosh, where did the year go? And I think it's really important to be able to slow down and become much more proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah. No, that's very good, very wise. But yeah, you say just things happen in life, and there are a lot of things that are out of our control.
Yeah,
That is the influence of the outside world, and what happens happens.
yeah,
But like you say, it's
yeah,
how we choose to react or not react, um,
yeah.
or interact, or take no reaction at all, or I always say there's four. I'm trying to think what they are now. There's action, interaction, reaction, and no action. And I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
depending on which of those you choose, that is a choice, because you have a choice. You can, something happens, and if you react and you're angry about it, that was your choice to be angry. It's not your choice how you feel when something happens to make you angry. And you do feel angry, that's valid, as you say. But how you react to it is a choice. And that's where it's just learning those choices, the options, emotional control, and like you said, actually having the intention of, do you know what, I can handle this, and being confident that you can handle more. And
And
yeah,
having those tools, isn't it? I mean, let's be
mm,
honest, it's about having resilience. To me, happiness is about having the tools to become resilient and to cope with what life throws at me. And to resilience for me is feeling calm and balanced, which of course I don't feel. I mean, I also want to be really
mm,
transparent. I work in happiness. I call myself a happiness evangelist. I am not happy every minute of the day. I'm not in this little
yeah,
bubble of happiness.
mm,
Happy people process all their emotions. And I think this is a very
yeah,
important point, that in order to be happy, you have to be able to sit with all different emotions, difficult emotions. We have to have the ability to process those emotions. So happy people don't just focus on happy thoughts and happy feelings. They
mm,
process everything. And this is very, very important. And to have those tools that we can use so that we can feel much more resilient. Of course, life happens to me, and I get angry and I get irritated and I get frustrated and I get
yeah,
hurt. and I feel
Yeah.
low, of course, but I don't always dwell on them for a long time, or it doesn't knock me down completely and I'm stuck. I have those emotions and I come back up, because I have those
Yeah.
tools to do that.
I think that's a good point actually, is the being stuck. And that to me is what about helping people is about getting them out of that place where they are stuck there.
Mhm.
Because I talk a lot about the little colour wheel up on screen, up that
Yeah.
side, I always point the wrong way. And
Yeah, it's because of
yeah,
the
because
camera.
when I point it's over there, but it points the wrong way on the screen. I've got to point that way. um, and you've only got those four core emotions, and if happiness is one of them, you've got a choice to reach towards that. But you're not going to spend your entire life in that quadrant of the emotional cycle, as you say. It's got to be a
Yeah.
blend. It's got to be a balance. There's got to be some peace and calm in there, which is in the blue. You've got to have a bit of passion and drive, which is sort of
Mhm.
towards the action, anger. Action to me is on the red side, and that is the anger and the passion and the drive and the motivation. Um,
Yeah.
that's all there. And you need to balance it.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
yeah, how to actually learn to balance all of them and recognize, oh, hang on a minute, I've moved into another one. I need to move back. But I think for happiness, it's about putting in as many happy moments as possible rather than trying to live life permanently happy. And the others will
Yeah.
happen, but it's about how to put in as many of those as possible to keep the balance.
Yeah, and of course, like happiness is often about like, yeah, those happy moments, but they don't
Yeah.
always have to be big, elaborate, I'm off
No.
to, on a safari or something. I think that's something that's important is that right now we compare ourselves a lot to others all the
Mm.
time. And we're still told that what makes us happy is often external things. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important that when I ask people, I run a happiness club, and when I ask them what happiness means to them, people don't talk about anything like they don't talk about money, they don't talk about holidays or travel or anything. They talk
No.
about calm, they talk about balance, they talk about being present, you know. Those are
Yeah.
the things that they kind of talk about. And so it's very much, I think we need to have a balance when we set our goals and we look at what we want to achieve, is that we have that balance between extrinsic, the things that are outside, of course, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, me going on holiday, it gives me great memories. Me going to a concert, which is like the thing that makes me the happiest in the world. I love my live music. That's an external thing, but I get so much for me that I can draw upon. There's things that are external that I get happiness from, but
Yeah.
also my goals are always also balanced up by intrinsic goals. So the things about personal development and growth and the things that, pour into me and nurture me as a person. So it's very important that we get that balance between the external things that make us happy, but also internal, because you can have all the money in the world. It doesn't always make you happy. And the research shows us that, the level of happiness and the level of money, they kind of go together for a while. And then they worked out there's a kind of level of around $75,000 where happiness and money change. So it's not like if you have $1 million, you are like the happiest person in the world. It's not
No.
true. There's a certain point where money, of course, it provides us opportunities and freedom and, so
Mm.
many things that are important to us, but it's
Yeah.
not everything. And so we really have to look inwards as well. And, when
Mm.
you're talking about like those choices, it's about having that awareness of where we are so that we can move between those different quadrants that you have there, but
Mm.
also knowing that we can change and we can relearn things. And this is what excites me as well. This isn't me just saying, hey, look, I changed and I became much more confident and happy. You can too. Of course, there are tools, but also neuroscience tells us as well. So I'm sure you talk about it a lot in your book, Kay, but what triggers everything is thoughts. And when we
Yeah.
have lots of negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, that's what creates everything. It creates the feelings, it triggers everything. Behind it all, behind your stress, behind your anxiety, behind all the worry, behind all the anger, are thoughts. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, they are only thoughts. They are just
Yeah.
thoughts. They're super powerful, but they are
Yeah.
just thoughts. And there's so much evidence in neuroscience that we can change our brain, that we can retrain our brain the way we train our bodies to
Yeah.
think differently. And I think this is such an important part. I mean, you'll speak even more to that than me, Kay. But this is so important that you can quite literally reset neural pathways and train yourself to be more positive, to be more happy. And we
Yeah.
can see that with, they did a lovely study on Tibetan monks, the people with the Dalai Lama who meditate for thousands of hours at a time. You don't have to
I
do
want to
that
go
much.
join them.
It sounds great, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
the part of the brain for meditation is like the left side of the prefrontal cortex. And when they went to scan them, they were just like, is everything kaput? What has happened? Our machines can't be working because this part was huge. It
Yeah.
was so dense because
Mm,
this is all about happiness and kindness. They meditate on loving kindness. And this
yeah.
part of their brain was so dense with neural pathways because of the work that they'd done. And
Wow.
so we can retrain our brains and create strong neural pathways to think positively, to think happier. And the more we
Mm.
work on that, the stronger they get. But conversely, when we don't focus so much on the negative ones, they weaken and disappear. So we can really train our brains to be happier, which I just think is
Oh,
fantastic, isn't it? It means that we all can
it
do
is.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because you say this is the weird thing without me even having thought about the literal physical parts of the brain. But when you look at the little circle up there, the emotional cycle, you look at that
Mhm.
as though you got front of the brain slightly to the left. That's the happy and the peaceful blue together, because blue is sort of it's one color on my diagram, but blue is quite a dynamic concept in terms of grief, right through to thoughtfulness, air, and thoughts. And blue is like water for
Mm,
emotion. So the blue represents a lot of things to do with the emotional cycle. But when you're thinking about in terms of it, the one place everybody dreams of being is on a nice, quiet, sandy beach with the sun shining. Can you imagine it? The sun shining is the yellow, the water is the blue, and that's the one place everybody seems to dream of being in their mind. And
yeah.
it, the colors are already there and it's that choice. But if you can't be there, think about being there in the meditation. It's as good as being there for your neural pathways.
Yeah,
I just
because
think it's brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
the brain doesn't really differentiate between real and imaginary. So if you are feeling stressed and you're going over and over something, a situation in your mind, your brain doesn't differentiate between that really happening and you imagining it happening. There's lots
Yeah.
of studies that back that up. So if you're constantly telling yourself, oh, this is what's happening or this could happen, then your brain thinks, well, this is what's happening. So
Mm,
conversely, if you are saying, well, this is the positive things that can happen, or I am visualizing and meditating being in my happy place on the beach, then your brain thinks, oh, that's where we are. So
mm.
visualization, meditation, mindfulness are such powerful tools and so simple to do, but highly influence how we feel, how we think. It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's just being aware. To a lot of people, they feel, like you said a little while ago about emotions being feelings and that. And as I always say, when something happens that makes me feel really emotional in whatever way it is, those emotions are my emotions. And therefore, it's my responsibility to deal with my emotions, no matter how bad I feel. Or at the same time, if I feel really happy about something, it's my emotions. Doesn't mean the next person's going to feel the same way about the same environment. And there's
Yeah.
so many. And actually, you were talking about being stuck in happiness, like you say, when you were talking about the two values going up together with money and happiness.
Mm.
My threshold never quite reached that far before I walked off and found something new.
Yeah.
But I was thinking a good film to relate that to is the Titanic. And I
Hmm.
think a really good example was Rose, who had all the money in the world, all this high social society, high society around her, all these people that were supposedly her social circle. And because she was only getting all the happy things and she had everything, she was so bored with it. And even in happiness, there's actually, when you're in happiness and you're stuck in it and you've got everything, you're still missing adventure and challenge. And people
Yeah.
need all of it. You need that balance. Otherwise, there's still not much purpose in happiness when it's all you've got.
Yeah,
And
you've got to have all
yeah,
aspects of life. Like Rollo May, the American psychologist, talked about how you need to have pain in order to feel love.
yeah,
Like we need to have those lows to really feel those highs. We need to have things that balance it up so that we do appreciate it. I think now that
Mm,
most of us are in lockdown and we're not going out to our restaurants and the cinema, you realize how much you do appreciate it. Perhaps it was something that was quite commonplace or quite regular. And it's not until you have a break from that that you start to appreciate what you did have. But sometimes just
mm.
doing something really nice all the time then takes away some of the newness or the excitement around that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So we need to have
absolutely.
a balance in our lives, but also, there's this kind of there's this whole aspect of what they call hedonic treadmill, that when we're really taught that material goods or things that are external make us happy,
Mm,
psychologists call it a hedonic treadmill. It's basically that you have to keep looking for that next high, in a sense. So,
yeah.
like classically, I always use like the iPhone. Like each year a new iPhone comes out for Christmas. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the iPhone that you have, but we're made to feel like we need to have the new next iPhone, even though there's absolutely not. So we start to believe there's something wrong with that and we need something else. And so we're constantly
Mm,
having to keep searching for things in order to get that feeling of happiness. So, like, if you're
yeah.
shopping a lot, you get that high of buying something that quickly disappears. So you have to go out and do it again. And
Mm,
so, there's a lot about, yeah, constantly searching for things that make us happy when a lot of our happiness is actually much more internal.
yeah. I think it's a good point you're saying there about having to, because your emotional cycle will want to find that happy place, whether you do it on purpose or not. And if you don't do it on purpose, and you do it like you say through constantly buying new iPhones, it could be going shopping, could be alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, anything. Could even be playing games on the phone. That's my go-to. Get the phone. It's like, oh, I really don't know what to do today. I want to feel better, and you go and get a game on your phone. Um,
Mhm.
but your brain will automatically find that way to get to that happy emotion, whether you let it or not. And that's the
Mhm.
thing, is having that choice to do it on purpose in the
Yeah.
right ways, or allowing the emotional cycle to control you
Mhm.
through the addictions and things. And again, it's just
Yeah.
down to the awareness, getting people to be aware of those choices, those options, and what their challenges are. And if you don't, as I've got it, from happy down to depressed, there's two routes, through red or blue. And if you don't
Yeah.
face up to them and work back through those, and you try to avoid them, that's when you end up taking the false routes to happiness. Like you said, like the compulsive shopper, and the
Mhm.
23-hour a day online gamer, and all the people who find other ways to cope with thinking they feel happy, but it's not true happiness. Uh,
Yeah. And I think, there's so much about like just how we're brought up, the messages that we're given. There's a lot of reasons why people get to a certain point and don't feel happy or feel stuck or feel that or believe that they cannot have the life that we're saying that
mm,
people can have. People are really stuck within circumstance and life
mm,
events, of course. But there's great research by Sonia Lubomirsky, who wrote the How of Happiness, and it's kind of been looked at again. But to give you an idea, like because you've got your little pie chart as well, so that's what she
yeah,
did. But 50% they kind of say is genetic, so there's a sort of a genetic component. Although, as we say, I think we can also look at that also can be altered. And
yeah, I've
then
heard more about that
10%
lately.
is, yeah, and 10% is like circumstances. So of course, your circumstances do have a huge bearing, and some people have, incredible difficulties, difficult childhoods, a lot of
Mm,
trauma. There's a lot that goes on there, definitely. But there's a
yeah,
whole 40% that's up for grabs. And
mm,
I guess with circumstance, you can either be defined by that or you can change how you respond to that. You can utilize
mm,
that. All the great stories of people who come from rags to riches and
yeah,
difficult childhoods to succeed. Your past doesn't have to define you. You can overcome those, and you can
yeah,
often utilize a lot of those resources in order to be successful and happy. So there is so much that is there in your control, that it's
yeah,
important to know that no matter what you've been through, no matter what's going on, there are
mm,
ways and means. And you also, that you, as every human being, has a right to go for those chances. Everyone has a right to happiness, the right to opportunity. And you know, with all due
Yeah,
respect for all the circumstances that are affecting people, I know there's a lot going on right now that, um, but we all are able to create those opportunities. And I do believe rather than believing, well, I'm not worthy of that, or I can't have that, or it won't happen to me, that we can work on those. We can change our thinking and become much more positive, believe in ourselves, and keep working on those limiting beliefs and changing those limiting beliefs so that
yeah,
we can believe that we can have the life that we want. And in all the years I've worked, when I ask people what they want, no one comes back to me with anything completely obscure, outlandish, or wild, like, not
mm,
everyone wants to be the next supermodel or rock star or astronaut. Most people want just really simple things. They want to have enough
yeah,
money to enjoy life. They want to travel. They want a family. They want a job that gives them meaning and purpose. Most people
yeah,
want pretty realistic stuff, We don't actually look for the extremes. We look for just
no,
regular stuff that is completely attainable, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, it's like trying to create our own comfort zone. We know it's bigger than what we've got now, and you sometimes feel repressed by it, or things pushing you outside your comfort zone is another one when you're perhaps in a job where they're trying to push you too hard. But like you say, it's just about defining what your values are, your worth, your dreams and goals, and going, that's my comfort zone. How do I now fit in that? How do
Yeah.
I bring that to me?
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be quite a long journey. It's taken me 5 years from thinking, right, I know what I want to do to where I am now. It's taken me 5 years to complete that journey. But if I hadn't had that vision and purposefully, intentionally taken actions and steps towards it, I wouldn't have been here now. I would have still been just sitting here thinking about it. So you have to do things as well as think about them, but you have
Yeah.
to begin with the thoughts. Because if you don't
Yeah.
think about it first, it's never going to follow. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's about
you've absolutely got to get clarity on what it is you want. You've got to know what it is you want. And then you have
yeah,
to get clear goals about how to make that happen. And I don't
yeah.
think you and I are sitting here, the jobs that we have or being published authors because, someone walked up to us one day and went, "Hey, you should write a book and we'll publish it for you." That doesn't happen, and like, well done doing things in 5 years. I'm still on that journey after
Yeah.
I'm in my late 40s, so I've been on this journey a long time, and let me tell you, it
Mm.
doesn't really end. That's the whole point. It's not like I'm not sitting here going, I've got it all sorted out and I am just in a great place. I'm constantly working on stuff. That's
Yeah.
growth. That's the
Brilliant.
journey of life. So I always wanted to write a book. I love self-development books, nonfiction books. It was a dream to do that. And when the
Yeah.
opportunity arose and the timing was right, I worked on that last year. But my goodness, so much stuff came up for me. I had huge limiting beliefs about being able to write that came all the way from school. I had a terrible time at school, really strong, like, you cannot write. I had an English teacher that hounded me for like 6 years nonstop, really
Oh,
really destroyed me, even though
oh
I
goodness.
love books. And so this here I am sitting at 49 years old going like, I can't write, and hearing a voice from like, 35
Yeah.
years ago, like someone who really influenced me. And like, I had to like, there were so many times I thought, this is just too hard. I don't want to do this. Or here I
Yeah.
am, how come I'm working through more stuff? But
Yeah.
I kept pushing through that and working on it. And,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
wrote and published a book in 4 months. And that was also because I decided that's what I wanted to do. This was what I was going to work on. And other things were put to the side, and my attention was there. I didn't go, I'd love to write a book someday. I said, I'm going
Mm.
to write a book and I'm going to write it in 4 months. And
Oh
I'm going to do it
wow.
from start to finish. Yeah, I mean it's a shorter book probably than yours, but I wrote a book and I
Yeah.
did it from start to finish and got it published, and it got to number one bestseller on Amazon, and
Oh
it's
fantastic.
fantastic and sits up there in existential psychology next to Viktor Frankl, who was one of the first people I picked up when I studied psychology. So
Oh brilliant.
so I went from someone, I wouldn't say I'm the best writer, and I definitely had huge limiting beliefs around that. And still I'm
Wow.
working on that. But I did
Mm.
it because I decided I would work on it. I got the help that I needed. I got the accountability. I got the resources. I made the time for it, and I worked and I worked and I pushed and I pushed. And
Mm.
I did it. And if I can do it, anyone can do it, whether it's that or
Yeah.
whatever your goal is. keep reaching for those goals and pushing. And just something about what you said about comfort zone, like it is hard, isn't it? You're like, oh, this pushing yourself out your comfort zone is exhausting. It's really
Yeah,
hard work. I feel it every day. I feel
but
I do that
rewarding.
every day. It's definitely. But
Yeah,
how I kind of phrase it for me, and maybe it's helpful for others, is that I think the more you work on yourself, those little steps that you take that grow yourself, that grow your confidence and your mindset and your positivity, everything that you pour into yourself, to me, I feel that I expand into my comfort zone. So rather than thinking that I'm going to go out into this scary place, I just see like me pushing and just pushing those boundaries just a little bit every day and just growing and growing and growing. So I grow in confidence and those comfort zones move. And I don't know if
yeah,
that's helpful. I feel like it's a nicer way of looking at it. As you grow,
yeah.
you expand into your comfort zone. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you don't have to go as extreme as going, right, I'm terrified of heights, I'm going to jump out of an airplane. Even I'm not going to do that. I'm terrified
No,
of heights, but I will get in an aeroplane, but I'm certainly not going to jump out of it again. I'm not-
there's
and
certain
then
things that
again,
you can do. I mean, yeah, I
yeah,
was terrified of speaking. I mean, I couldn't even speak in school. I was physically sick if I had to speak in class. In
yeah,
university, I couldn't even go into the cafeteria to meet my friends for coffee. I was so self-conscious. I couldn't physically walk across a room.
mm,
And now I've actually been on international stages and spoken. It's
wow,
like I've
oh,
really got I mean, it's incremental, and I'm going, here I am, I show up here with you, we're talking live. There was a time I would never have done that.
wow,
So, it's just take those steps. It's like, yeah, it's the same as you wouldn't say, I want to run a marathon and go out the next day and run 26 miles. You wouldn't do that. That would just be silly. You're not going to do that. You would work towards it. So to me, the
exactly,
analogy is the same with your brain, with your feelings, with your thoughts, your emotions, with your goals. It's like you work up to stuff. If I want to be a speaker, if I want, yeah, being a writer, I started with like, writing content for the work I do, working the writing the worksheets for my clients, and then
mm,
writing blog posts, and then being a guest blogger, and then working up to writing a book. I didn't just go write a book. You
no,
work up
same
to
here,
things.
yeah,
Everything we do, we're building our skills. I didn't
yeah.
just wake up one day and go be a life coach. I spent 30 years training for this.
Oh wow,
So
yeah,
that's that's what we do. So don't be disheartened. You're just in a process. You're just on a journey. You're just
yeah.
constantly learning, and you and I are doing the same. We're sitting here going like all the things that we're working on. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Except mine was a slightly different journey. I was in admin. I was working for an offshore wind farm, and I thought I need to change a career, and I want to be a public speaker. What am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
And it was about that time that I was starting very, very early on, starting to develop this system with my son. Or I'd been doing it, but I hadn't chosen to make that my topic at this point. So I'd
Mhm.
like developed a bit of it to help him, and he was improving rapidly. And I said to him one day, and it was a really good day when he was like coming through the depression, and I said, I've decided I want to change career and go be a public speaker, but I don't know what to talk about. And he said, well, talk about what you know best. I said, yeah, but what is that? And he said, well, me, of course. It's like, yeah, that is
Okay.
quite obvious, really, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it just all kind of blended in at the right time. And sometimes things just it's like the universe brings everything together at the right moment. And it was like
Absolutely.
I'd done like you said, trying to find your self-worth, and I'd done an evaluation on all the jobs and things that I'd done throughout my life, which ones I'd enjoyed, which ones I hadn't, and tried to work out the correlation between them all. And it come down to being around people and helping people. All the jobs where I'd help people, I'd love doing them. The jobs where I was just stuck off on a factory workbench or cleaning up, washing up, whatever, and stuff like that, weren't the jobs I'd enjoyed. But jobs where I'd had interactions with the public, I'd loved them. I was right, that's a clue. And I'd been doing some public speaking for the job I was in, but I wasn't trained for it as such. It was just I knew the topic in the job and went out and did some speeches. And I actually thought, no, it's just something I'm rare. I didn't mind speaking in public, but it still took some practice.
Of
But
course. But
yeah,
well done you.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
exactly. You can definitely, I guess 2020 was the year of the pivot, wasn't it? So there's nothing
Oh,
wrong with pivoting and changing. It's
yeah,
acceptable, but there's nothing wrong with changing course or changing yourself. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is
no, no,
permanent. Everything is up for grabs, and you
yeah,
can keep the things that you like about yourself and you appreciate about yourself, and you can change the things that maybe no longer serve you. as we go through different stages in our lives, we need different ways of coping. And what worked for
Yeah.
you when you're 20 doesn't work in your 40s. And,
No.
who you are then is different from
Mm.
who you are now. And so we find different ways
Yeah.
of being and growing. And
Yeah.
that's what a growth mindset is all about, that nothing is fixed, that everything is open and that we're constantly evolving and changing and learning. I feel like I've got so much still to learn. I'm
Mm.
really working it out,
Mm.
There's so much in my life that I have no
Yeah.
clue what I'm doing.
I know, and do you know that's a really important message because I mean, for me, that the message is all about helping teenagers and young adults, and that's a really important message for them. Is what they're trying to make life-changing choices about their career, but actually they have no idea, even if they go through school, college, and university, what their career is going to be, because how many teenagers and young adults go through all of that training and then choose something entirely different anyway? Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
in a way, I'm not saying don't do college and university. They're really important, especially if you want a good pay. There seems to
Mhm.
be a sort of a certain level that's hard to get to within employment if you haven't got the educational levels.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, when if you've got a passion for something, you just do it. If you want to do it and there's a spark there, follow that spark. It means
Mhm.
something. It's there for a reason, and
Yeah.
it's to do with your own values and your own personal beliefs and goals and yeah, but don't whatever they're trying to choose now is what they want to start with or work towards. But
Yeah.
it might be either you start where you're looking, or it could be they set themselves a goal and say, right, this many years down the line, I want to be like a surgeon or a whatever they want to be. And it takes steps to work towards that. It might
Mhm.
be sweeping the wards in the hospital first and cleaning bedpans, but working towards that. And it's just such a journey. But the journey is the most important bit. And in finding that happiness along the way and step by step, that's what's really important. And so it's important to have the goal, like saying you're going to go and run a marathon, but instead of
Mhm.
focusing on the finish line, focus on every step and enjoy the journey and the crowd cheering and the sensation. Not that I'm going to go and run a marathon, it's not going to happen.
It's just an analogy for me. It's not it's
Yeah,
not gonna
exactly.
be
Exactly
looking
what you're
back
saying.
next year and be like, "Oh, yeah, run a marathon this time."
Yeah, no, that's not for me. But there are other people who've made it not just a mission to run a marathon, but like run 100 marathons. I'm like, they're
Yeah,
crazy.
there's incredible ultra
Mm.
runners. There's some amazing people. I love listening to the podcast of Rich Roll and what he achieved. He went from being so unhealthy to being one of the top 25 fittest men in the world at over the age of 40. I mean, become an ultra
Wow.
runner. He's amazing. His podcasts are phenomenal, that I think that's also
Oh,
really important. Like, it's never too late to do things, I
no.
moved country I think I was 40. I must have been I was 40. Was I 43? 43 when I moved for the first time. I left Scotland
Wow.
and moved. I got pregnant at 43. I set up a business when I was 41. I became a published author at 49. It's like,
Yeah.
there's plenty and plenty of time, and it's okay to achieve new things and achieve new goals and have great new ideas and try
Yeah.
different things. And it's never too late to, I have so many clients that come to me and think, "Oh, everything's gone past me," and I'm like, "You're 27. It's okay. Don't panic. It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You've
No,
got another
no.
50 years of work ahead of you. It'll be all right."
Yeah. I think there's a lot more people in their 40s and 50s as well who do get to that point. But like, I have had a really successful career, but it's time for a change. And
Yeah.
one of the best ways I heard that put was midlife crisis is when you finally reach the top of your ladder and realize your ladder's up against the wrong wall.
Yeah,
And
I think that
I
happens a lot though. Yeah, certainly with the
yeah,
clients that I see, absolutely. That of course you go into something because it's a profession, something because it's going to be a good career. Of course, most of us,
mm,
and certainly our generation is more about, like, yeah, to have that security, stability, have a good career so that you can have money and a good income. And so
yeah,
many people chose that because it was a good decision. But
mm,
either they wake up at some point and go, actually, I don't find it fulfilling, or they're in a field where it's just not quite in alignment with who
mm,
they are. So like you said, like, there's like
yeah,
the common thread for you was people. Yeah, but you
yeah,
might be in, you could be in HR, say, because that's people, but actually being in HR is just like the wrong environment, and being in a
yeah,
corporation doesn't work for you. But being a coach is a better
mm,
fit because you like people. We often, one of my recent clients, was a teacher and really was burnt out with that. And now she's a health coach because she loved teaching, she loved helping people. And then when we shifted her into that, that was just like the best fit for her. So she
Wow.
was doing a job that fitted on paper what her skills were and what her passions were, but it was the wrong setting, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that happens a lot, that
Mm.
we do something because it feels like that is the right fit, but actually it's not quite the right fit.
Yeah, I did that last year because I was going to go and work in, oh, it's gone out of my head now. It was a contractor under National Probation Service. So it was about helping minor offenders with positive thinking skills.
Mhm.
But as I went through the year, the training, so August, September, October time, and as their goals kept changing with the lockdowns, they shifted to keeping the focus on the high profile offenders and the high risk cases, and they put me on training for full on domestic violence. And I'm like, this isn't what, back in March when I'd applied for it on the 3rd of March, because it'd been quite a long 6 months
Mhm.
process to get the job. So a lot had changed in that time. And it's like, this is not just about positive thinking skills anymore. And it wasn't where I thought I was going. And I was like, it's not sure this is quite for me. And it was like saying, okay, I've got a choice, like going out for a drive, put the telly on or put the radio on. I was like, I put the radio on. And it was like the job choice was saying, I know I'd made the right choice, but it was on the wrong channel. And it was, the music doesn't sound right. It was like,
Mhm.
I just needed to change channel. So the job was very close to what I wanted, but it just wasn't quite right for me. And it was like, I had to just say, do you know what? I need to take a leap of faith and just hand my notice in again and do this book. And it was a massive leap of faith. But
For you.
we'll see what happens, because the launch is next week. So we'll see what happens from there.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic.
but
Good for
you
you
can see.
though. It's a brave step, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
listening to that, and I think so many people soldier on and
yeah,
are deeply unhappy or in very toxic environments, and
yeah.
yeah, it really isn't healthy for us. And particularly with work, it's such an important part of our life. We spend so much time there, and
Mm.
I think most of us want to derive some kind of meaning and purpose and satisfaction from what we do. And
Yeah.
so it's important that just to tune in and to listen, like, is this really in alignment with who I am or who I am now? Because yeah, like what
Mm.
you set off doing in your 20s often changes, doesn't it? You're
Yeah.
looking for a challenge, something different. I'm really fortunate that I've found something that I love from early on. Although it's kind of changed and morphed into
Mm.
different ways over the years, but the thread is there of always working in mental health, always working with people, always
Oh, it's
helping.
really
So
good.
I'm fortunate that I had that passion, and I think it's probably even stronger now than it ever was after all these years working, which is
Oh, that's
fantastic. But
amazing.
yeah, but things alter, things
More on
change.
your terms. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Now, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I love the work that I did when I worked in Scotland, but I don't particularly want to go and work for a mental health charity anymore. It was really
Um,
the amount of politics and pressure and
yeah.
issues and stuff. I love working for myself. And even though that's challenging, it's different. And I love being my own boss and working
Yeah.
on my own terms and creating the stuff that I want to create and helping people in the way that I know I can help them
Oh,
without
that's
those
brilliant.
restrictions and constrictions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So I can't believe there's 45 minutes almost gone already. That's gone quick. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything we can do to share with viewers, because it's amazing. We've got some people popping in and out live, but a lot of people are watching this after the show as well.
Yeah.
It just does tend to get a lot more hits afterwards throughout the next 24 hours at least. And is there anything we can share tonight as a little something for people to do? I mean, I can start by saying one of the things I like doing is, if I can get it in camera, is my little orchid. These are little things that bring me happiness. And it's sometimes
Yeah.
not just the flower, but the memory of how I got it as well.
It's
Um,
beautiful.
so having little things like that on your desk as well is another one. It's a tiny little thing in a jam jar, and it's an offcut from one that was brought for me, and the mother died, the original plant, and this has
Mm.
taken 3 years to flower, and it's finally flowered.
Gosh.
So I'm grateful for something pretty on my desk. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a whole like and for what I do and like in the intentional happiness, like so in the book that I write, and also it's a course, it's step by step guiding people through the actual practical steps to feel more
okay.
proactive and happy. So it's things like visualization, having clarity, knowing your values, setting up those goals, time management, all those things that take us forwards, integrity, talked about being authentic, all of
Yeah.
these things. So there are like certain processes that really work. But I think what you're touching on, and it's so timely, I spoke about it. I run a happiness club every Monday evening for women, international women, and we spoke about like preempting Blue Monday coming up
Oh,
next
yeah.
Monday on the 18th. So Blue Monday, for those that don't know about it, it actually isn't really scientifically based. It was actually created in 2005 as a marketing ploy for Sky Travel. And there was a professor in Cardiff who got a formula of thinking about like the weather, the time after Christmas. Many of us often have like a lot of debt after Christmas. We're waiting for payday at the end of January. A number of those factors. And he decided that the third Monday in January was the hardest day of the year, the most depressing day of the year. And
Mm.
now he kind of said that he created it because he wanted to see it as a positive thing to get people to take action. I do feel after working all these years that January is a really tough month. I think for
Yeah.
most of us, particularly if you're in this like the northern hemisphere, January is pretty tough. You've had all that action over Christmas and the productivity and the planning and the sparkle, and then
Mm.
it's over, it's done, it's cold, it's dark, it's
Yeah.
pretty dreary. Maybe you are kind of like feeling a bit of a pinch financially after spending all that stuff at Christmas, and of course adding to it now the pandemic, the restrictions, the lockdown.
Mm.
There's a lot of stuff going on that January is really tough, and I do think there's some merit in the kind of Blue Monday and just
Yeah.
January. And so we spoke about it last night, and just exactly what you're talking about. There's so many simple little things that might sound maybe a little trivial if we talk about them tonight, but they do work. And this is coming from people that I talk to, and I ask them what works for you. And so absolutely bringing, I like to say I've got my plants as well, but bringing that nature indoors, having plants, loads of research about how plants make us happy. Put them in hospitals, people recover quickly. Have
Mm.
people in hospital looking at gardens, they recover quickly. So,
Wow.
having nature or being in nature really helps. So, yes, many of us are restricted right now, but if you can get out for your fresh air, if you get out for a bit of exercise, get out in the snow or the wind or the rain or the greenery, being in nature really, really helps boost your happiness. There's so many things you talked about, the colors, wearing bright colors really helps.
Yeah.
My grandmother refused to ever wear black. She always refused to wear it. She always wore bright colors. But wearing bright colors makes us feel good, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
that helps. Our body language is so important. If we kind of feel like, oh, it's January,
Oh, yeah.
and you feel like that, don't you? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying, I'm just smiling, it's all okay. I don't mean that, but smiling helps. Our posture really helps.
Mm.
Adopting that, being aware of that really helps. The things that people talked about is like dancing, listening to music,
Yeah.
um,
That's a good one.
listening to inspiring podcasts, reading a motivational book, maybe reducing some of our social media or the news at the moment, because we can
Mm.
really get caught up on just constantly refreshing and streaming and comparing and listening, and it doesn't always make us feel so good right now. So limiting that can be really helpful, and watching happy stuff. There's nothing wrong with like putting on your favorite TV show, or a great
Mm.
comedy sketch or something. Like watch things that make you laugh. I do
Yeah.
think scheduling time with friends and family, whether it's even over Zoom, but
Yeah.
making time to be with people and talk to people, relationships and connection are vital to our happiness. We are social creatures. We are made to be connected. That's why this lockdown is difficult for us. That's why not being able to hug people really does affect us now, because touch and hug and connection is what we are made to do. So
Mm.
be proactive in
The
that.
bit
Don't
I'm
go, well, I
missing.
can't see anyone. And maybe you are tired and we are on Zoom a lot, but planning that
Mm.
time, I plan time with friends and go, right, okay, let's get a glass of wine and meet over Zoom, even if it's for an hour, or, like have a book
Yeah.
group and things like this. So, plan those things that make us happy. Do some exercise, even if you're indoors doing some exercise. There are dozens. In fact, I'm just about to I'll send it to you and you can maybe share it in the group. I'm just about to finish
Yeah.
my
Yeah. I'll
blog
link it
post on
out
this, and
then.
I think we have something like 25 tips that you can do.
Wow.
But all of these, and you mentioned practicing gratitude. That's an
Yeah.
incredibly important one. The research shows that if we practice that for 21 days, we start to form a habit and people significantly feel happier because we're
Mm.
focusing, we're training our brains on what we are grateful for, not what we don't have or what's not working. So the
Yeah.
practice of gratitude, a couple of minutes a day, goes a long way to our happiness.
Mm.
Also, kindness is a big one as well, and that might seem strange, but acts of kindness make us feel better. And the
Yeah.
research shows us that as a person doing an act of kindness, we feel happy. And then you receiving that kindness, you feel happier. And actually, even hearing about acts of kindness makes us feel good. So,
Yes. Yeah.
creating, if you create a ripple of kindness, you do something
Right.
nice, I do something nice for you, then you're going to be more likely to do something nice for somebody else, and they do it for
Yeah.
somebody else. So
Kind of says a
there's
lot
so
for why
many.
the comedy and the kindness videos go viral over some of the important ones. If it's news, oh, nobody wants to know about that. If it's a puppy that's just fallen off a table somewhere and fell in the bin, everybody wants to see that and have a laugh.
Yeah, we all those ones that people share of like acts of kindness and how
Mm.
like it really touches you when you see humanity and what people do. Those small acts of kindness, and it can be so small. It can just be a compliment or a phone call, or just it can be some
Yeah.
sending a little gift or writing a note or giving
Mm.
someone a call. It doesn't have to be huge. The smaller acts have as big a significance. It's just the act of doing that and
Yeah.
being kind to others. So there are many, many, many things that we can do. We've just named, I don't know, about a dozen so far. But
Easily, yeah.
don't underestimate how these small little things can make us feel better in ourselves. You
Mm.
know, nourishing yourself with good food and doing a bit of exercise. Okay, you might not love every second of it, but you feel better for that. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or yeah,
Mm.
having a walk outside and enjoying nature, or yeah, putting on something that feels nice. It probably even more so now when we don't really get dressed up or even dressed sometimes. It's really nice to put on nice clothes and
Yeah.
to feel
I won't
good.
I won't say publicly that I didn't get dressed till lunchtime today. I do normally. I normally just get up and get dressed, but today I was just like, I feel like having a day off. And then it was like, no, I haven't got time to have a day off. It's I just sat here and got
Absolutely.
straight on with work in my pajamas this morning, but I knew I hadn't got any video calls. But yeah,
That's
just
fun.
so many things. I think maybe actually a good idea might be even making a list for each person to say what things would you do to be intentionally happy, and make a list of your own things
What
and
are the
put that
things that
somewhere.
work
Wherever
for
you're feeling
you?
right, what can I do now? Go to that list. Could be reading a book as well.
Yes,
Um,
for me, reading is a huge one. I love that escapism. I love reading. So making time to read every day makes me feel good. And I also wanted to commit, last year I committed to wanting to read like a self-development book every month because I have
oh
loads of
wow.
them. I do collect them, and I do love them. And I
Yeah.
buy them, I'll read to read that. And of course you're like, oh, I want to read that. And you never get around to it. So I was like, no, again, being intentional, I'm going to read one every month. I actually read, I think, 18 or 20 books last year that were
Wow.
nonfiction.
I'm
And that felt
collecting them
great.
at the moment.
Yeah, but that felt great because it felt like I was doing something for me because that's all about nurturing me and pouring into me and about growing as a person, isn't it? You learn from something like that. So, but it's making time. So, yeah, like take 5 minutes after watching this and write a
Yeah.
list of what are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that you like doing? And it's
Yeah.
okay to spend time on those. It's
Yeah.
important to spend time on that.
Having a nice bath or something as well, even that. Anything where you're being kind to yourself, I think, really, isn't it? If you do
Mm,
it and you feel like you're taking time to be kind to yourself, don't feel guilty about it, because actually
absolutely
that's
not.
being happy on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Actually, it's a good point, actually. It just reminded me of something, if I can find it. I've got to think what I've done with it now. There it is. Right. I had shared this a long while ago. I shared this when I was doing my 28-day video. And this was something that came as an idea from a counsellor I spoke with last year, is to have, I hadn't got buttons or beads and I hadn't got enough coins. So I've got a little pot of candle wicks. This is a really random thing,
Mm,
just little candle wicks.
mhm.
Um, but I've got a little pot here and a bag of candle wicks. And it's every time you do something kind for yourself, is to pop, literally pop one of these. I'll get the right way in a minute, and pop one of them in there. I'll take it out again and not cheat at the moment. But when you do something, so it doesn't matter how big or small it is, whether you've just I don't know, just been and had a bath and put some nice oils in and relaxed and treated yourself, or whether you've read a book, whether you've been for a 10-mile walk, as long as it's one thing, put in one token. And at the end, when this is filled up, transfer it into a monetary value and go and treat yourself to something. And that was
Nice.
setting that goal. So like you, and I love the fact that you said about setting that goal.
Mhm.
Um, and when you set a goal, you tend not to set goals to make you sad or angry. You set goals to make you happy and working towards those. And you saying about the books and saying what I want to do and setting yourself the goal. So
Mhm.
again, maybe looking at the list of things people want to do and setting mini goals even, and just because
Yeah.
it's reaching any goal, no matter how big or small, that makes us feel happy. Like, oh yes, I achieved that. So it's just like creating those moments of joy and happiness, like you say, and repeat it, repeat, and just keep going.
Yeah,
Because life
but what
life
I
will
hear a
always,
lot is that
yeah,
people feel like they don't have time for things, and I know we
yeah,
are all really busy, but there are 168 hours in the week.
yeah.
So if you think of it
But
that way, 168 hours, and if you want to read half an hour per day, it's not really that long, is it? If you read 30 minutes per day, you decide I'm going to spend like 3.5 hours in a week out of 168 reading. You've still got
yeah,
plenty of time for other stuff. But it's
yeah,
also like what is important is a choice. Okay, there's things that you have to do, there's things that maybe you want to do. But if there's things that are important and like your mental health, your happiness is important, then what are you going to do in
mm,
order to feel good? And so we have to get over the fact that we're allowed to make time for these things and that these are important. Reducing
mm,
your stress and feeling happier and living an authentic life and working towards the life you want is very, very important. And it's essential to do that. So, finding those things that really work for you and making the time for them are really, really important. And many of the things that we talked about take minutes, quite literally. I do a meditation every day, it's a 5 minute meditation. It's 5 minutes. We've all got 5 minutes,
and if
you
you
know?
don't do it, you're choosing to spend all of your time in the other three emotions, in all of the other emotions. If you don't choose even that 5 minutes of peace and calm and happiness, you're just spending the entire day in the others, and that's stressful. So yeah, everybody deserves to spend even at least 5 minutes being happy a day. If not, it is a very sad world if we can't do that and make that time for ourselves. And yeah,
Yeah, so
Yvette's
many
got
of the
another
things we spoke
lovely
about
evening.
are
Well done, ladies. Thank you.
tiny.
Mhm. So yeah, we had a very quiet evening, but I'm sure we'll get a lot more visitors later on. We generally get some really good views by the next sort of day, the week. But yeah,
Lovely.
it's usually something going on. There's lots of things going on, and this is the thing. There are so many things going on Facebook every night. It's just finding what you want to join in with as well.
Yeah,
And I must admit, my gratitude is I'm grateful to anybody who takes time to come and join me here and watch this and support such amazing speakers as Julie tonight. Thank you so much. Um,
you're most
I can't,
welcome. I really enjoyed chatting
yeah,
with you.
yeah, I just can't believe how quickly these hours go. You think, oh, an hour, that's going to be forever, but it just flies by every week. It really does.
Of
Um,
course, of course.
and I don't know whether you know, I mean, we're talking about intentional happiness. Having lost my marriage, my home, my job last year, and then faced with finally, at say, leaving that other job. Um, just as I was finishing that, I was going to have a week to myself. I'd planned my week of happiness. We went straight into another lockdown. It was like, okay, what am I going to do for the next 28 nights? I can sit and cry, or I can get on and do something. And I went online and I did a 28 night in a row challenge. So I did video recordings like this 28 nights in a row. So I didn't have to sit here on my own every night. And at the end of that, I had so many requests for people to join and speak that I said, okay, I need a couple of nights off, and then we'll do one a week for 52 weeks, and we'll see how far it goes. Um,
Lovely.
and I think we're already on about week 6. I think it's like gone crazy. So
That's it.
it's
You're
been
just that
amazing.
absolutely intentional happiness in action there. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, like the lockdown, I mean, we can't control that. It's what it is. We can play our part to reduce things and to speed up our recovery from this pandemic. But at the end of the day, you can't change that we're in lockdown for a month. So you can either wallow in it and be depressed about it and talk and focus on how bad it is and what you can't do, or you can focus on what you can do, or you can create things to do. I wrote a book. What do you
Yeah,
want to do? I mean, so yeah, it was hard work, but it's like it felt great at the end of it. But
yeah,
it doesn't have to be anything as big as that, but you can choose the attitude that you want to have. You can choose the mindset, and the mindset is essential. If you want to get through this, we have to be flexible, we have to be adaptable, and we have
yeah,
to, and even more so now because everything is constantly changing week in, week out. We have to be adaptable, and we have to find ways to stay positive and to focus on what we can control.
yeah. Oh, bless her. I've got to put this one up. Oh, thank you.
Oh, lovely,
And
lovely.
you've also put on there. Well done. Lovely, another lovely evening. Well done. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you. Oh, bless her. Yvette's my front row lady. She's here every week without fail. So
Right.
yes, this out of the 52 weeks, this is number 6 already. So they're counting down really quickly already towards the next season. And next week, just to let everybody know for next week, next Tuesday is actually the launch of the book, Brain Unchained. I'll just hold that up briefly. Brain Unchained. So although it's released, it's on Amazon already in paperback. Um, Next week is the official launch, and we'll have a special offer on Kindle. And that's all going to be taking place in my Facebook group, not here on the profile where I'm posting this today. This will be shared in YouTube later as well, so I can share it across all platforms. But next week's will there's events going on all day in the group, and then the live show in the evening just happens to tag right nicely onto the end of it. And we've got Rory Berry back with the power of improv and play, and we're going to do about half an hour of talk, and then we're going to have a half an hour of online games. We are actually going to end the celebration of the book launch with half an hour of online games. I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but we'll find a way and we'll make it fun. And we want everybody to come in and interact. You might be interacting on your own yet, Yvette, but we'll see. I'm hoping to get a lot more people on board next week and get everybody interacting in those comments and actually joining in with some fun. We're going to throw in some real happiness on purpose next week in practice. So, but thank you so much. Intentional happiness. So thank you so much tonight, Julie.
You're most welcome. I really enjoyed talking to you, and really all the best with your book and the launch. I'll go away and order my copy right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, it's
Absolutely.
amazing. So we'd never even spoken before tonight, and it's amazing and so inspiring when I can meet with people like yourself online and have a conversation with you for the first time, completely live, unplanned, and we're so aligned with all the processes of how, we deal with emotions and that. It's so empowering to other people, inspiring to them.
Yeah.
To say, if we can meet and have this conversation for the first time ever, there is something in this. We're not just making it up. It really does work. So I hope everybody can take something from it. And if you do find something really powerful, come back and give us some feedback. And don't forget to connect with Julie on Facebook as well. And thank you
Please
ever
do.
so much. And I look forward to seeing everybody again at 7 o'clock next week. So thank you. All right. Bye bye.